matters. Before we get into our matchup, which is a doozy, a little bit of news coming out of MLS as Nacho Piatti has been linked to a potential move back to his home country of Argentina. He played with San Lorenzo, actually helped them win Copa Live back in 2014, but he is linked to a potential move back to Banfield. He just had his second kid with his wife and his family have to move back to Argentina. He's towards the end of his career, but I mean, the numbers, the statistics, and everything that he's done speaks for itself. But, I mean, for the Montreal Impact and for Thierry Henry, no pun intended, but this is going to have a massive impact on their Scotiabank CONCACAF Champions League play if it is true.
I think one of the things we have to remember was we were just talking about, could he stay healthy?
Yeah.
He's going to be 35 in a couple of days, literally February 4th. So that was the key question coming in. They're going to miss a dynamic playmaker in the 10. They're going to have to fill that spot. But selfishly, I feel for the player here. I understand how Piatti could feel. My career was cut short. But look, you get an opportunity to go back home, make surroundings a bit more comfortable. There's two moves that are made at this age. You're going for money or you're going for comfort. And he's obviously going the latter, and there's nothing wrong with that. He's still going to get paid. Yeah. It's not what he was getting when he was 28, 29. That's fine, but he's still going to get paid. At this point in time, this makes sense for he and his family.
Yep. Well, for Nacho Piatti, it's not a done deal yet, but there is a lot of different noise coming from a number of different directions. We'll keep you posted on that as we move along. But the topic at hand, the matchup at hand, juicy fixture alert. It is the best one of the round of 16 by far. LAFC and Club Leon right around the corner. We're right around the corner from the Super Bowl, and this is more or less the Super Bowl of the round of 16. MLS's great hope to win 2020 Scotiabank CONCACAF Champions League, and a Club Leon side that's been capturing everybody's hearts south of the border. But we'll take a look at the two teams as a whole, as we've been doing with all of our matchups. And for Club Leon and LAFC, in terms of offensive firepower, they're very similar. Club Leon, 7-time Liga MX winners, 5-time Copa MX. Angel Mena has been out of his mind recently. That is combined with both Apertura and Cluster in terms of goals scored. And then how about LAFC and Bob Bradley breaking records left and right, goal differential, goals scored, and of course points, beating out New York Red Bulls from 2018, a side that did not get all that far in 2019 Scotiabank CONCACAF Champions League. And as you can see, LAFC Club Leon paired up. This is the one everybody's been waiting for, buddy.
Yeah, well, going back to the draw in Mexico City, we've talked about it a couple of times, but you wondered where Leon were going to end up because they were a Pot 2 team. This is where the seedings kind of, they get a bit controversial. Team in the second is going to face off against someone from MLS. We knew it right away. Who was going to be the lucky team? LAFC. What really stood out to me, though, Tyler, was how the team reacted. Coming out of the draw, by no means whatsoever was it, we got pushed over, we got passed over, we got the short end of the stick. It was the exact opposite. It was the brain trust talking about all the great things they were capable of, what had gotten them here, and how they could take that next step. They weren't worried whatsoever, and they said, okay, we play for keeps, it's time to get to work. And that right there is a mark of a true champion.
It's baptism by fire, because when you look at the bracket, you're going to have to face a Mexican team at some point if you're an MLS side and you want to win the tournament. Why not just do it in the first round?
Well, I think the other thing to think about is if they get over this matchup, the way that things break down, it's by no means is an easy route. Let's get that out of the way. It's not like Tigres on the right side of the bracket, but on the left side of the bracket, they have an opportunity. You got Cruz Azul and Portmore United waiting around the corner. I will take that matchup. I will take it, because if you win that, you have basically assured yourself a spot on the left side of the bracket in the final. Obviously, it's the semifinal of the entire tournament, but it's the final of the left side of the bracket. You're probably going to end up facing Club America or whoever wins that turnout, and that's going to be the difficult one. But get through this first one. You go out, make a statement in the first game, get a win, then take another step, and then a third, and then a fourth. That belief, you're out of preseason, you're starting to find midseason form. Everything coming out of their camp, by the way, Vela looks like he just finished yesterday, which is a very good thing for LAFC.
Well, this LAFC side, when you look at them on the surface, all of the spang dangle and everything, the aesthetics are so pleasing. But my tactician who's got a PhD in Bob Bradleyism is going to take a deep dive into the gizzards of LAFC and what makes them tick going forward along the back line, and maybe, just maybe, where Club Leon might be able to pick them apart. Don't go anywhere. back into the SCCL show. Tyler Terrens along with Devin Kerr here. Remember, you can get the show available on podcast on both Spotify and Anchor. But enough of that. You don't even want to take a single shot of me. You want to go back to Devin. Devin is standing with all of his toys and everything that he's been given over the holiday season, and he's going to break down LAFC and what they look like moving forward. Devin.
Well, a couple toys. Christmas did come early, my friend. So let's have a little fun with LAFC. And what do they look like? Everybody knows that, okay, they've set some records. They've scored a lot of goals. Let's give you an idea of what this team looks like. Let's start with the boys up top. Diego Rossi, Carlos Vela, Brian Rodriguez. Rodriguez at the end of the year starting all the rest of the games. They bring him in, end of the year acquisition. Done. This is the most dynamic offensive threat that you have seen, not just to hit MLS, but to hit the CONCACAF Champions League. Let's get that out of the way. Let's go to the engine room. Mark-Anthony Kaye, Latif Blessing, Atuesta. Atuesta is going to sit deep. He'll play the 6. These two boys are going to go back and forth. They'll play the A-10. One problem, Mark-Anthony Kaye is still hurt. Get rid of him. Cifuentes is going to step in. The Ecuadorian they brought in the offseason. Highly intelligent, lovely soccer IQ, big player. The only difference is he's more of a 6'8". We'll get to that in a second. Let's move to the boys on the back line. Jordan Harvey outside back. Tristan Blackman, the draftee out of the Pacific a few years ago. And, of course, men's national team Walker Zimmerman, Eddie Segura. This is your 4-3-3. This is the Bob Bradley brain trust. So let's give you an idea of what this can look like going forward. Ball's picked up in the middle. The reason this team hurts you so many different ways is because they have so many options. Let's say Blessing picks up the ball on the right-hand side. Everybody's going to shift a little bit, right? They like to get the outside backs high, and they do it on both sides of the field. A lot of times you can have outside back, tuck in, but as this rotates over, they'll cheat a little bit. They'll allow Jordan Harvey to stay on the outside. But when Blessing shifts, Atuesta will drop. Cifuentes will come over. Vela will even drop in. And the key component here is the boys on the outsides, because Rodriguez will switch, Rossi will switch. Regardless, we're off to the races. As we move up the pitch and all these pieces start to move down, notice all the options available. Even when Vela starts to stop back in, Rossi can stay, Vela can go. They can switch it up. He can be a playmaker. As we go, everybody comes. You can get yourselves into trouble like this as well. But again, we'll double back here. As the line comes high, so does everybody else. Look at this point in time, we've got 10 players compacted on the offensive side of the ball. It's a 50-yard stretch, 60 yards depending on the field that you're playing on. It does not matter who you come to. Let's have a little ticky-tack. Let's have fun. And, of course, Vela in the back of the net. Now, what about if we're pinned deep in our own half? What does LAFC do then? Well, let's let the boys show you themselves. This is a goal, a beautiful goal, I might add, that they scored last season. When this ball is deep down in their own end, watch the way that they can play out. They can do it possession style, and they can go quick in transition. We're going to take the latter. Lovely little ball coming through, and there's the overlapping runs I was talking about. Vela drops in. He was outside wide on the left. Diego Rossi recognizes it, spins off, and guess who's sitting there on the 6-yard box? Atuesta. So many moving pieces that allow you to be broken down. And again, look at all the trailing players in the white jerseys that if this ball does turn over, they've compacted the field, they've secured themselves on both sides of the ball. Lest we forget that this is the most dynamic team, that's right, at me, in all of MLS and could be in Champions League from set-piece opportunities. They can hurt you there as well. They did it in the Western Conference Final. They just couldn't push it forward. Watch out, Tuesta. He and Vela going back and forth, deciding, you want to hit it? No, me, no, me? No problem. Seattle Sounders, how you like me? Of course, it wasn't the result that they wanted, but this team is one of the most dynamic that has ever graced the pitch.
Professor, I do have a question here. And it has to do with Cifuentes in the middle of the field, just because I'm such a huge fan of Mark-Anthony Kaye and what he brings, and I just think that he really makes them go in the middle of the field, and he allows them to break lines and to just be really dynamic. Cifuentes is not the same type of player as Mark-Anthony Kaye. So, Devin, my question to you, Cifuentes starting in the middle of the field, which we assume is going to be the case with Mark-Anthony Kaye still hurt, how does that change Diego Rossi, Vela, and Rodriguez in their approach and maybe having to present themselves in a little bit of a different way?
It's a very good question, and so let's break that down. Cifuentes, as we mentioned, he's more of a 6'8". What does that mean? That means as Atuesta drops, he's going to tend to drop a bit more. That's going to put the workload on Latif Blessing more than we've seen in the past. Now, Blessing more than capable of it. The difference is if this is Mark-Anthony Kaye, they both step in unison. Now, watch at the beginning of the year. Don't be surprised if that extension is not there as often. That's where the tutelage of Bob Bradley and that brain trust comes into play. They have to will him into the final third. Because, Tyler, to you and I's conversation off air, what happens sometimes? These boys get isolated. And if they get isolated, they no longer have the gap in the middle. The other issue they run into is as everybody steps, okay, let's push our line high. Now we've turned the ball over. When they start to risk the outside backs, they create gaps. Zimmerman and Segura will allow themselves to sit. They'll give themselves spacing, but what happens? You start to move in, as Jordan Harvey drops off the screen, you're open in the channels. it creates a lot of problems. That is where they got themselves into heavy trouble. Ask LAFC how that ended. Western Conference Final didn't look out so good. Seattle Sounders counted them. LA Galaxy counted them. If you go back and look at most of the scores scored against them last year, it was all because of emotion, and everybody's starting to counteract where they're supposed to be. They forget their markings. Space starts to open up. They get themselves into trouble.
And they had a change at the goalkeeper position. They bring in Vermeer, of course, who's towards the end of his career. He was at Ajax for a little while. Tyler Miller going over to Minnesota United after they do not pay Manone. So for Vermeer, Devin, and a lot of people at LAFC had a bone to pick with Tyler Miller because as everybody was stepping for LAFC, Miller kind of would hover a little bit. He was a little bit conservative in how far he would step up and playing in that sweeper keeper role. Devin, it doesn't seem like Vermeer really has that much of an issue.
Well, if you're an LAFC fan, it's not even that an issue. Take a seat and hold on tight because it's only going to get worse in a positive manner. Bob Bradley likes his boys to play. This is where Miller played. That's at Minnesota United now. They're going to step more. Don't be surprised if he's 25, 30 yards off the line, especially when possession moves all the way down into the final third. He'll come up. Let's turn it into a sweeper keeper. That's okay. It opens up a can of worms in some other areas where if you get countered, maybe he gets chipped off the line. But remind, this isn't David Beckham. This isn't Wayne Rooney. We're not seeing guys regularly drop the ball from 50, 60 yards out. They're going to end up in highlight reels. I would rather have this and have this man right here. Wondrous things going all the way back to Ajax. This is your starting goalkeeper you want. This is the 11 you want. Just add Mark Anthony Kaye, and that's a winning recipe.
Awesome stuff. Well, this is an LAFC group that broke the record for most goals scored in an MLS season with 85. The last team to even come close to that was LA Galaxy of 1998. The leading goal scorer on that team, Kobe Jones, he had 19. Vela had 34 this past season. He's going to put his medal to the test in Scotiabank CONCACAF Champions League. So Devin did an unbelievable job breaking down Bob Bradley and LAFC, but we're going to need some help breaking down Club Leon and this Liga MX side that has taken everybody by storm south of the border. So we're going to get some help from none other than Mexico soccer extraordinaire John Arnold. Stick around. You're not going to want to miss it. Welcome back into the SECL show. Devin did a great job breaking down to LAFC, and now we want to take a look at the other side of the ball with Club Leon, and we had to bring in our expert who is just doing so much and is so knowledgeable within Mexican soccer. It is none other than John Arnold, tuning in and Skyping in from Dallas, Texas. John, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. Glad to be with you guys. There's no better sort of happy hour moment for a Friday than chatting a little soccer, and then maybe we'll head to the pub after. But let's focus on the football right now.
Let's focus on the football for the moment, and then you're buying me a cerveza afterwards. But this Club Leon side, just from a very base standpoint, what can we expect from them tactically over the course of 90 minutes? What's sort of their identity?
It's interesting because Leon has really surprised me with Nacho Ambriz, the current manager. Previously, at other stops that he's had, his teams have been, I would say, unimaginative. Maybe that's even being generous. Sometimes just flat out boring. That has led to some success, but also some fans being pretty bored by the football. Leon is the opposite. They're a team that loves to play quick transition. They spend far more time in their attacking half and certainly even their attacking final third than they do defending. That's good because, as we might get into, I think their weakness is at the back. They've tried to upgrade with some transfer moves this offseason, but even then, I think that maybe there's opportunities for a team like LAFC, certainly with the attacking prowess that club has, to maybe take advantage and get some goals. But at the same time, it's a team that also will put pressure on LAFC's defense. The tactical idea is pretty normal, I would say, 4-2-3-1. But you got Ismael Sosa playing a really rangy role, kind of taking over from Luis Montes, who is still in the lineup, but has been playing more of a two-way role than he has in the past. So I think it's going to be fascinating to watch, and certainly a team that has plenty of elements where there is some danger there for sure.
Sosa with 8 goals and 5 assists so far combined in the Clausura and Apertura. He's been playing some brilliant football. A lot of teams or a lot of people, I say, will talk about what it would mean for MLS teams to win a Scotiabank CONCACAF Champions League for the first time in the modern format. But a lot of people forgetting it's not like all these Mexican teams are under one umbrella and they're all rooting for each other. They're all their individual identities. What would it mean for Club Leon to capture a Scotiabank CONCACAF Champions League?
Absolutely, it would be huge. Leon is a historic side. They've won 7 Liga MX titles. They're one of only 2 teams ever to win the Bicampeonato, winning both an Apertura and a Clausura in the same year. It's a team that means a lot to Guanajuato, or not just the city of Leon, but the whole region, the state, is really behind that team. And you have to remember that this is a club that's never won an international title. They haven't had that much of an opportunity to play for international trophies. So it's not just, it would mean so much if MLS broke through. This would be a breakthrough as well for Leon, winning a first international trophy, adding that to the trophy case. There's other teams in this competition who I'm sure you guys will talk about as well, like a Tigres, who has also never won an international trophy. But Tigres can kind of say we're on the map. We've made it to a Libertadores final, whereas Leon doesn't have that luxury. So I think that this is a tournament that is critical for not just Leon supporters, but the team's administrators, and obviously by virtue of that, the coaches and the players.
Well, Ambriz has won it as a manager with Club America, of course, a few years ago. For the fans back at home who are on the MLS side of things, who are maybe trying to draw some comparisons, you said that LAFC is sort of similar to them in terms of the attacking side of the ball, and maybe Club Leon could be exposed a little bit on the defensive end. Is there any team in the MLS maybe that you might be able to compare them to? Is it maybe even LAFC?
I think there's some similarities with LAFC. If you put the subtle formation differences aside, the 4-3-3 versus the 4-2-3-1, I think there's definitely some things in common. The desire to be attacking, the quick transitions, those are things that we see both teams have. I don't know that we have to go too far from LAFC. When you draw a direct comparison, maybe the Galaxy. You're looking at a team who have the same setup, who have very talented wingers in Angel Mena and in Meneses, the Chilean. So, LA has had that setup, or has that setup now as they go into the new year. A central forward that looks for service, that wants to either, head the ball in or maybe take one shot, where one touch, turn and shoot. When you're talking about Leo Ramos. So I think that you're looking at a team that's pretty similar to maybe the 2 LA teams in MLS, if you have to draw a comparison. Obviously, there's some subtle differences, but, even a guy like Mena, a winger who lines up on the right side, cuts inside, and is a left-footed player and causes teams attacking problems, LAFC fans probably don't have to think too hard to imagine a player similar to that.
So what you're saying is that this is going to be an aggregate that's probably going to be featuring around a 15-goal scoreline, more or less, over under. We can put money down on that later, but that sounds like more or less what you're saying: goals, 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 and more goals.
Look, I definitely think that's a possibility for this sort of series. Both teams have players who can make the difference. Both teams have defenders who are good, who are quality, but perhaps struggle to stop some of the players in the upper echelon. And I think you can certainly put a guy like Carlos Vela in that upper echelon. You can put a guy like Angel Mena in that upper echelon as well. So I would definitely say that this could be a very fun series. It could be a very attacking series, and it should be a series that's really fun, and I think gives us a preview of what this CCL could be when we're talking about how interesting it will be to watch the kind of improving MLS teams take on Mexico. Will this be the year? Hey, it's too soon to say, but this matchup is absolutely going to be the one to watch in the first round.
Well, you talked about how Tigres is on the map, how Club Leon is kind of, jockeying for position, trying to get themselves a little bit of recognition. In terms of form right now, where would you rank Club Leon in the 4 Liga MX teams that are within CONCACAF Champions League?
Well, it's very early, right? But Leon is, they were the second team last tournament. They were second 2 tournaments ago. They're a team that's consistently at or near the top, which is a bit surprising because they're not a Grande, one of the 4 traditional big clubs. They're not America. They're not Tigres in terms of the big spenders. But I think with Ambriz, you've seen a project that actually has continuity. And that's so significant in Mexico, where there's so much topsy-turvy, so many managers often being replaced. When you can get a guy who has a consistent idea, who has a couple transfer windows to say, this is the type of player that I want to bring into my squad to play in that manner that we're talking about, I think that's huge. So look, and you're talking about form, we're only 3 weeks into the season as we're speaking right now, but Leon's sitting in second once again. So I think you'd have to say they're one of the top Mexican teams just in recent history, even if they're not a big name like America. For me, they might be one of the best Mexican teams or hottest Mexican teams in terms of form when you look at this tournament.
Now, we know what the media headlines are in this country, and that's MLS teams have never won CONCACAF Champions League, LAFC breaking records left and right, Bob Bradley, Carlos Vela, the list goes on and on. This is the team that is hopefully going to do it on, in the U.S. media. For Mexican media and sort of the buzz that's going on around south of the border, is there a little bit more with this fixture because of what LAFC has been able to accomplish, because of the star power in terms of their ownership group and because of everything that's been going on around, or is this just another fixture for Liga MX and Club Leon side?
It's a bit maybe darned if you do, darned if you don't, right? Because if the MLS team loses, Leon gets the credit for very little, right? Oh, a Mexican team is supposed to beat an MLS team. If you lose, then, oh, how dare, the Mexican team fall to an MLS team? I think the things that you mentioned are critical. The fantastic year that LAFC had, the record-breaking points total, the goals. But when you look at the press that this series is getting, it's really all down to one man, and that man is named Carlos Vela. It's easy to understand why this figure, who for so long has captivated the Mexican press's attention, the Mexican fans' attention, it's easy to understand why he's getting so much buzz, why the series is getting so much buzz. But this is a guy you have to remember. It's been a long time since Carlos Vela has played a competitive club fixture in Mexico. It's going to be the headline that's going to be the biggest story. So despite all the prestige I think LAFC has earned in its short time in MLS, the real showstopper for the Mexican press and the Mexican fan, I think, is still just the fact that Carlos Vela is on this stage. Let's see what he can do once he gets there, but it should be a lot of fun.
A lot of fun indeed. John, thank you so much for taking the time and helping us break down Club Leon and this matchup, which of course is going to be just out of this world for round of 16. We got very lucky with this matchup. I don't know if LAFC or Club Leon would say the same, but February 18th, 10 o'clock Eastern time on the Fox Sports Networks. John, thank you so much. When we come back, Devin Kerr is going to go toe-to-toe with me right here in the CONCACAF studios on some very, very, very hot takes within Scotiabank CONCACAF Champions League. Stay right with us. Welcome back into the SCCL show. Tyler Terrens along with Devin Kerr. Again, John Arnold was terrific in that last segment. Devin was mediocre in the segment before that. But
par for the course.
Nothing is new here. No. Nothing is new. Now, listen, I got nothing but love for you. I really do. I mean, this is one of my best friends in the world. Been working together for a few years now. I've slept over his house a couple of times. That's now being changed into a nursery, but c'est la vie. But, you know, sometimes I just need to go. I need to go toe-to-toe with you. So I'm a little bit bitter about that. I need to go toe-to-toe with you. Yeah.
Let's go.
We got a few debate topics. Let's just get right after it. Let's go. All right. The first one, and it seems like a bit of an obvious one, but there may be different reasons for this, and maybe you have a different answer. LAFC, I mean, we're talking about it. Are they MLS's greatest hope in this year's tournament?
Of course they are.
Why?
They're the best MLS team in the tournament. They're not the only hope, though, because their matchup is difficult. Their matchup is difficult with Lyon, which we just broke down. We also have to talk about what's going on with the rest of that side of the bracket, the left side. John talked about it. You've got Club America in there. I mean, even if Cruz Azul, which is going to get through Portmore United, I think LAFC can handle them. It's still a difficult task. Look at everybody else. You know, Atlanta United's still over there. I mean, you have a lot to play through. A lot. That's very, very difficult. Still think they're the best hope. They're not the only hope. Seattle Sounders are in there. I was going to give a shout to Atlanta. Hang on.
You're giving a shout to Seattle before Atlanta. Okay, go ahead.
I was going to give some love to Atlanta United, but apparently they're on a self-destruction.
Yeah.
They push. You're not supposed to ever push the little red button. They push the little red button, okay? They can do whatever they want now, but it's going to be Fly Falcons. Everything that's going on at LAFC, that's why they're the best hope. I don't see anybody else. Seattle are set up better. Again, for me, it's an age thing that we have to deal with. Can they reload that roster? Garth Logway, Brian Schmetzer, they have some work to do. Seattle has the better path. LAFC is the better team.
I would agree with you that they have the better path in terms of Seattle, but when you look at their roster and you look at maybe the average age of that roster, it's a bit concerning for me. But
I just said that, by the way.
I know you just said that, but let me get my point.
Go ahead.
You had your time in the spotlight, okay? For me, though, again, I'm a big intangible. You're a tactics guy. I'm an intangible guy. When you take a look at Seattle and what they were able to do in the Western Conference, and they were able to roll through that and then get the win at home for an MLS Cup final, and a team that can get through a knockout phase, and they bring back most of their roster. Jordan Morris and Christian Roldan do excellent things. I think Jordan Morris is probably, he's underrated from a CONCACAF region standpoint, obviously not underrated within the United States and all the things he's been doing with the U.S. men's national team. For me and where they're set up in the bracket, it's difficult. I mean, Seattle could last two rounds longer than LAFC just because of the draw, and
you can make
it's
the
the
same
luck of the
argument
draw.
for Montreal Impact.
Okay, so you couldn't. I mean, now you can. If Piatti's leaving, you cannot make the argument for Montreal Impact.
Just to be clear, if you have Seattle playing LAFC, and I'm giving you, they're playing each other 10 times. You're picking Seattle.
No, I never said that. I said the draw. I said the draw.
Move us on. Okay. Odds are on my side. Bookmaking, let's go.
It goes straight into our next topic, which of course is going to be the draw. With everything that happened with this year's draw and having LAFC and Club Leo, now listen, from a third-party standpoint, you and I just get to sit back with a bag of popcorn and be able to watch this fixture. It's going to be excellent. But for the teams involved and maybe some of the other teams who have gotten hosed in the past in terms of the draw, might not be. Should the draw be open with the one maybe stipulation that you can't play a team within your own country, as opposed to the sort of point system and what you did in your domestic league that's in place right now?
Yes, and I'm actually going to take it directly from their cousin from across the pond, UEFA Champions League. Their stipulation heading into the round of 16 is that you cannot play another group winner and you cannot play another team from the country that you play in. So, for instance, if Manchester United won Group G, Liverpool won Group H, they could not play each other. Why? Well, because they both won the group, number one, and number two, they both play in the Premier League. Open it up. Now, you can't have Cruz Azul play Club America, but you can have LAFC play Comunicaciones. You can have, in my opinion...
But you could have LAFC and Tigres in the first round, which is what people would want to see in the final.
So? Isn't that the great thing? I mean, couldn't we make the same argument for what's going on the right side of the bracket right now, how it's basically easier anyway? I mean, look at the way it's broken down. It's absolutely ridiculous. Based upon who's on the left side. I'm not discrediting Montreal Impact or Seattle Sounders or NYCFC or Tigres. Tigres is a phenomenal team, and they deserve to be in this tournament, and they're one of the best teams in the tournament. But look who they have to play compared to what's going on the other side. Now, the argument that you could have with me is, okay, well, what if Atlanta United plays Club America, Cruz Azul plays LAFC, NYCFC plays Tigres, and you're making that argument for the left side?
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
We basically have that now.
It's not that.
It's dramatic.
It's dramatic, but I know.
Put it this way. We agree that it needs to be changed.
Yes.
Maybe not open it up, but we agree it needs to be changed.
Quick question before we go to our next topic. Olympia, who gets through the gauntlet that is CONCACAF League, and that'll lead us into our next one. Should the winner of CONCACAF League get an automatic bid into Pot 1, given the fact that they just won an international trophy?
That's a good one. That's a good one.
What say you?
Well, I'll say this, considering this year that San Carlos, right? San Carlos was ranked higher than Leon? San Carlos was the 9 team, right? Considering they were ranked higher than Leon, I would say yes. If they're going to keep it this way, I would say yes, that they get ranked higher.
Okay.
If it stays this way.
All right.
If it changes, my answer is going to have to change.
Okay.
It's like the outfit change.
We agree on this for the most part. Not Seattle. Not Seattle.
It's interesting. Can I ask you this one?
Go ahead. What do you got?
Okay, so let's say this. Should the 6 teams from CONCACAF League get an automatic bid in? And if no, why not?
For me, it's a hard. I love the new setup of CONCACAF League feeding into Champions League because
he's asking for a pay raise. By the way. That's what he's doing. Right?
I don't think that just because you win the domestic league within Nicaragua, that you should automatically be thrown in with the likes of MLS and Liga MX teams. I don't think that you should get that right. I think that the way that it's set up, because if you look at the teams from CONCACAF League that have gotten in, it's set up perfectly. You have 2 teams from Honduras, 2 teams from Costa Rica, and then a mixed bag in the other 2 teams. And if you look at the past 3 CONCACAF Leagues, the amount of years that it's been in existence,
good math.
Costa Rica and Honduran teams have been in the final every single year. So therefore, they should get the opportunity and they should have the most amount of teams if they're going to get there. And it's just going to unfold that way. All the 6 teams that are in, they should be in. They should be in because in years past, it was difficult for me to watch the winner, the winning team from Nicaragua, take on a Mexican team because you have to prove yourself within a tournament format, within an international tournament format, and those 6 teams were able to do that.
Yeah, I disagree.
Shocking.
I disagree.
Shocking, yeah.
You get into the quarterfinals of a tournament and you automatically progress to the next round.
No. You have to be one of the top 6 of the 8 teams within the quarterfinals.
Still.
It's not still. There are teams who got to the quarterfinals that missed out.
I want to read this directly from the site. This is the verbiage used. Second best ranked losing quarterfinalist overall. Said no one ever to get into a major tournament. That doesn't exist. It does not exist.
This is the world we live in.
Here's what should happen.
Okay.
You keep the Liga MX teams, 4 of them. You keep the MLS teams. Don't look at the cheat sheet. Stay on your own side of the table. Okay? 4 MLS teams. We're at 8.
Yep.
Caribbean.
Yes.
Still gets it. Portmore. That's 9.
Okay.
We're going to take 4 from CONCACAF League.
Yes.
What's 9 plus 4? 13. Doing math really well. We need 3 more. Where are they going to come from? We still have the Canadian champion. We're at 14. We have 2 spots left. You think San Carlos should be in over Monterrey, the previous year's winner? That's absurd. That is absurd. The team that just represented this league and this championship at the Club World Cup.
So now,
insane.
So now, hold on a second. I see what you're saying, and I
didn't even get to do my other pieces, but go ahead.
I know. For a hot second, I was with Devin on this in the sense that I think that the previous winner should be there. If you look at Monterrey and their body of work, and actually there was some great piece of breaking news that just came out right before we went live. Rodolfo Pizarro, who of course was a major part of that Monterrey team that won Champions League. Inter Milan?
Inter Miami.
Same thing at this point. Inter Miami is
Anthony
basically thrown. And this is an Inter Miami team that has made it very clear that they want to be the first MLS team to win CONCACAF Champions League. I guess they're writing everybody off in this year's tournament. They're going after the Open Cup this year. So Pizarro with Inter Miami for a lot of money, not the 133,000 that Julian Gressel was on. But I mean,
I didn't give you the last piece, by the way.
No.
But I want you to finish.
No, but my point is that if you take the team who won the previous year, you're getting away from the idea of this tournament, the format now, and having it start at the beginning of the calendar year, that you want the rosters to at least look somewhat familiar.
Say that to the Apertura. Really?
I'm just saying.
Really?
I'm just saying.
A team that played the first 6 months of the season and they get an opportunity to play in the next year's tournament.
But that's the way.
You're negating your own point.
No, but that's the way that league is set up. You're talking about the competition's previous winner.
Change the MLS league. All bets are off.
Change it. That needed to happen years ago. That needed to happen years ago.
How about my last team? How about my last team?
What about?
Because we removed 2 CONCACAF League teams, you're going to flip right now.
Okay.
Ready? I want the runner-up from the Canadian Championship.
No.
Here is why. If you go back on the past 10 years. There is not one team, not one, from a different division. I don't want to get yelled at by saying a lower division.
Yeah.
No USL championship team.
Yeah.
None of them have made it in.
No.
Halifax isn't getting through.
You can't have second division teams getting in because then the Ascenso in Mexico would go crazy. Why don't we get an opportunity to get into CONCACAF Champions League?
Okay, let me ask you this then, because it opens up another one.
Okay.
Why are we only giving a spot to one Canadian team? If a Canadian team If Toronto FC wins MLS, they get nothing for this tournament.
There's no Canadian. There's no Canadian teams. There's no Canadian teams. Yeah, you're only going to get one.
So that's a Montreal Impact, Toronto FC, the two teams that are consistently
numbers. I'm saying numbers. Now that you have the new Canadian League in place, you might be able to make a case for that. Maybe.
If a Canadian team wins the MLS, should they get into this tournament?
They can. Yeah. Yes, MLS Cup. If Toronto has won it in the past, they get in via that. But if they
Canadian
win both,
Championship.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
If you win MLS and not the Canadian Championship, you don't get in.
Yes, you do.
Remember that. No, you don't. It's Canadian Championship. It's Canadian Championship.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I had fun.
I missed you.
Still love you. Oh God.
It's Friday.
See, that's what it's all
Friday.
about. That's what we can have different opinions.
Waters for
but at the end of the day, John Arnold apparently is going to meet us at a pub later on. I don't know if he's taking the late from Dallas, but remember to watch LAFC Club Leon February 18th, 10 p.m. Eastern time. Forget the Super Bowl this Sunday. This is the Super Bowl of Scotiabank CONCACAF Champions League. There's going to be at least 13 or 14 goals in the first leg alone, possibly 30 by the time that the second leg is finished. But for Devin Kerr and our entire CONCACAF crew, Tyler Terrence saying so long for now. Remember, tune into the SCCL show every single Monday and Friday, 5 o'clock Eastern time. And we have a treat for you. This episode's 90 and 60 is going to be none other than Atlanta United, my team that has a better chance of progressing than LAFC in this tournament. Not really, but you see what I'm saying. Their comeback win against Heredia after they traveled down to Costa Rica and trailed 3-1. Their epic comeback. Spoiler alert, I'm sorry I ruined it. Have a great weekend.
Football. We could say that for us,
Pour nous, para uns,
para nosotros,
on this side of the world, football is our life, the game of our lives. Football always comes first. We all come from different cultures, but football unites us.
sin wir zusammen,
nos une.
One region, one voice.
Una voz, one voice.
une voix.
If we listen closely, we are born ready to shout. And from there, we start to play with intensity until the last minute. Faced with obstacles, we work through them. We will improve day by day, always forward, making football better everywhere, every match. Our passion is so strong that it breaks down borders, even those that are hard to knock down, for all of us to reach our dreams. We are the region where the game comes first, bringing the game closer to our fans, and decisions are always made for the good of the sport. We raise our level every day, making football better everywhere, every match. We will put all our teams in position to win. In our region,
Nuestra región.
Notre région.
Nuestra región,
everyone gets to play, connected and respected. One region,
Una región.
Une région.
una región.
together. We are the collective best of our individual cultures. We are millions of souls. We are together for the love of our game. United for football. 41 countries for one love. CONCACAF. Love for our game.
Well, it may not be Mercedes-Benz, the usual home of Atlanta United, but it is home nonetheless within the city limits of Atlanta. From Fifth Third Bank Stadium, Frank de Boer and Atlanta United find themselves trailing 3-1 heading into the second leg against Herediano of Costa Rica for a right to take on Monterrey in the quarterfinals of 2019 Scotiabank CONCACAF Champions League. Tyler Terran's on hand. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll take a look at the pitch conditions for tonight's match ahead, which should be an electric crowd. Capacity is about 10,000. We're expecting that. 60 degrees, slight chance of rain, but nothing that should hinder what should be an unbelievable night of football. The first ever Scotiabank CONCACAF Champions League to come through Atlanta, and with that, we'll take a look at the road to the trophy, which is obviously still a ways away, but a number of teams already punching their ticket into the final 8. New York Red Bulls going through. They'll take on Santos after they drilled Marathon 11-2 on aggregate. Houston Dynamo and Tigres will meet after their successes in the round of 16. Independiente drubbing Toronto FC. Monterrey has already gotten through after that dramatic night just about 12 or 13 hours ago. And Atlanta United looking to join those teams in the quarterfinals, but it is going to take a very special effort from a Frank de Boer side that's only known each other for about a month or so in a new formation in this 3-4-3 possession base, not the hard pressing style that we were used to seeing with Tata Martino, but Atlanta United fans will get a very strong starting 11 this evening. 2 changes from a week ago. Meanwhile, for Herediano, they continue to struggle in their domestic league, but everybody in the Heredia camp has to be extremely happy with the way things have gone so far, at least in this International Cup and the International Cup that they won in order to qualify for Champions League, and that was CONCACAF League, taking down Motagua by a score of 2-1 on the aggregate. It was Jimmy Marin with the game winner by way of a beautiful back heel from Jose Ortiz. It was actually reversed in the opening goal with that in Herediano, and it truly is a battle of 2 champions tonight here in Kennesaw, as the Atlanta United faithful might not be in their usual comfortable confines of Mercedes-Benz, which, yes, did outsell the Super Bowl for the MLS Cup final when they took down the Portland Timbers in a 2-0 fashion to claim their first ever MLS Cup. However, Fifth Third Bank Stadium will have to suffice, at least for this round. They will be able to return to Mercedes-Benz if they are able to get through, but this Herediano side is not to be underestimated. Jimmy Marin is emerging as not only one of the best young players in CONCACAF, but one of the best players in CONCACAF, period. There are rumors that he's getting looks from Belgium and Dutch sides. It was actually reported by MajorLeagueSoccer.com that Yafet Soto, who's actually the caretaker manager for Herediano for a number of different stints, now the general manager, they were about 70% of the way done with an MLS club in terms of the talks, but they would not reveal who, and they said that Jimmy Marin was not going to leave before the Atlanta United tie. Now the rumors start to swirl about Jimmy Marin making a move to Europe. Where he'll land, we'll never know. But at this point in time, Jimmy Marin really enjoying his time with Herediano, including that CONCACAF League performance, which saw him win the best young player. Herediano got outstanding performances from Randall Azofeifa, Esteban Granados, who both scored goals, in addition to Jose Ortiz's opener, which was by way of a total lack of communication from Miles Robinson and Leandro Gonzalez Perez and Brad Guzan. It was just a mess at the back for Atlanta on a number of different occasions, but they're hoping to have that sorted out in a matter of just about 7 days. We'll step aside as the 2 teams make their way out. An electric atmosphere here in Kennesaw, Georgia. It's Atlanta United of Major League Soccer in the United States taking on Herediano of Costa Rica. moments away from kickoff here at Fifth Third Bank Stadium. Tyler Terrence on hand. Thank you so much for joining us. Atlanta United in their classic red and black stripes, and Heredia is going to be in their all-gray kits, and they mean business heading into this second leg, looking to shock the world and really put a damper on that new rule put in place. As we'll take a look at that Atlanta United starting 11. 2 changes from a week ago, as it's going to be Breck Shea getting the start instead of George Bello as that left winger, and then it's going to be Darlington Nagbe, formerly of Portland Timbers, getting the start in the middle of the park. Jeff Lorenowitz will come off of the bench. Those are the 2 changes for Frank de Boer, but the changes are going to have to come from a philosophy standpoint as well as tactics, because it just simply was not good enough from the reigning MLS Cup champs, who obviously put on a show in the Major League Soccer regular season in 2018. O'Shea Nation, the 28-year-old referee in charge of tonight's match, joined by Jamaican brethren Nicholas Anderson and Joseph Bertrand of Trinidad and Tobago on his flanks, and of course our 4th official as well. We'll take a look at the starting 11 for Heredia. No changes from the first leg. Back in Heredia, Pablo Salazar, the captain, will be holding it down. Both teams going with a 3-back system. Keisha Fuller and Keener Brown will be linking up with Pablo Salazar on the defensive line, and keeping an eye on Jose Ortiz, and of course the speedster, magician, whatever you'd like to call him. He's just a baller. Number 11, Jimmy Marine, winner of the Best Young Player in CONCACAF League, which is just quite literally Europa League for CONCACAF. And this Heredia side, probably not as deep as Atlanta United. However, they hold a 3-1 lead coming into this second leg. And a look at the reserves available tonight. Romario Williams, Hector Villalba, both good options moving forward. Jeff Lorenowitz is a midfielder you can bring in should you need some support. Mikey Ambrose, Andrew Carlton, the youngster, available as well, as Brad Guzan is destined and determined to keep a clean sheet here tonight. That would mean Atlanta United only need a 2-0 win, a goal from Heredia, and this becomes a much more complicated task for Atlanta United as we're officially underway in Georgia for the first time ever in a Champions League game, not from Mercedes, but rather Fifth Third Bank Stadium. And Atlanta United will start out with possession. As we mentioned before, just 2 changes from a week ago. Shea and Nagbe in, Lorenowitz and Bello out. Bello 17 years old and showed pretty well considering his age and never having been in this type of environment, especially on the road in Costa Rica, as it's intended for Joseph Martinez, who was going to hit it on the first time. Likes to bring it down. Gressel takes a hit, and an early save from Cambronero. And Atlanta already flexing the muscles in the opening 38 seconds. Here's Darlington Nagbe on the turn. He did well after coming on as a substitute. Breck Shea on the first time. Physic ball, Martinez! Atlanta with a goal in the first 50 seconds. It's a dream start for Atlanta United, 1-0. Well, after missing that sitter of all sitters in the first leg and all the ridicule he got in the past week, Joseph Martinez pounces on the first opportunity that he sees here tonight. It's a poacher's goal. It's a terrible mistake in the back from Omar Arellano. But the football gods are just, because it was a mistake in the back from Atlanta in the first leg that proved to be the first goal. And Joseph Martinez opens up his account not only in Scotiabank CONCACAF Champions League, but in 2019 as well. And that quick of a start is going to get that sort of reaction from Frank de Boer. Martinez immediately goes to get the ball because there's still plenty of work to be done and plenty of football to be had, as a long-range effort straight into the hands of Brad Guzan. But what an incredible start for Atlanta United. You could not have drawn it up any better. Gonzalez Perez with a good step forward. Barco fouled by Arellano, the Mexican. And a set piece coming up for Atlanta United. Barco certainly saw a lot of the ball in the first leg, but didn't quite have the sharpness that was required. bodies forward for Atlanta. Straight in front, and Martinez almost got a touch to it, and Cambronero able to smother it. My goodness, does Atlanta United look like they're in the mood tonight. Darlington Nagbe fighting with Luis Diaz, wins his individual battle. Here's Barco now. Drops it off for Darlington Nagbe. Rumors that he might follow his former manager from Portland, Caleb Porter, over to Columbus, but ended up showing late into camp and might have been the reason why he didn't start the initial game. Is Piatti Martinez creating a turnover. Martinez back to his left. Oh, he made a mess of the finish, but everything leading up to it was nothing short of sensational. And after making his debut in Costa Rica last week, Atlanta fans getting their first glimpse of what the Argentinian is capable of. Turns defense into offense in a hurry, and watch this cut. Completely losing the captain and the defensive anchor of Herediano, Pablo Salazar, who does not get turned around like that very often. Not many seated Atlanta fans at the moment. They want that go-ahead goal, and they want it now. Nagbe. Shea. Remedy. Gressel. Trying to get it there on the first time. Second time will work. Back for Gressel. Julian Gressel! Just like that, Atlanta as it stands. Moving on to the quarterfinals. It's Gressel's second in the tournament. What an unbelievable first 10 minutes from the home side. Well, that didn't take long. Again, it's that deadly combination of Gressel and Barco. And it's a calm, cool, and collected finish from Gressel. Outside of the foot, picking out the bottom left corner. Terrific stuff, Julian Gressel. Came into this Atlanta side really as an underrated player in the MLS draft. He wants more for the crowd. You can see Atlanta not done with just 2-0 as it stands. It'll be Atlanta and Monterrey in the quarterfinal. As Barco might be away here. Ezequiel Barco through for Joseph Martinez, trying to pick out Piatti. It was the right idea. Now it's Breck Shea picking up seconds. Martinez back for Shea. Numbers in the area. And Atlanta able to win themselves a corner. And there's that devastating counter that we've been waiting to see from Atlanta. I thought initially, especially already having scored a goal, that Joseph Martinez might take that himself, but unselfishly trying to pick out Piatti. Some extracurriculars to sort out for O'Shea Nation. Joseph Martinez and Keisha Fuller put in timeout momentarily. Outswinger, Piatti, good ball in. Dealt with nicely though by Herediano. Now here's Jimmy Marine. Trying to switch the point of attack, not a bad ball at all, at least turn that Atlanta back line around. Wayne Rooney was able to bring DC United back from the depths of the bottom of the Eastern Conference barrel to a postseason position a year ago. Just think what he can do with an entire 34-game slate. Good pressure from Atlanta. Able to win the ball back, but Barco gives it right away. Arellano puts it on frame. Guzan makes the save and keeps it in play. He made a couple of key saves in the first leg that kept it within striking distance and allowed Atlanta to be able to have this sort of cushion, I guess you could call it, of only needing a 2-0 result to go forward.
Granados encouraging Jimmy Marine forward. Robinson cutting it out. And able to get it away, but only as far as Arellano. Hits it off the head of Barco. And Atlanta going to slow things up so the cavalry can move further up the field. Barco finding Dressel. How fit is the German? Wingers from Atlanta love to cut inside, and that opens up all sorts of space for both Breck Shea and Julian Gressel, or George Bello, whoever might be playing in that wing-back position, which is so crucial when you're operating in that three-back system. Tough to handle for Ortiz. Piatti Martinez relieving the pressure and finding Nagbe. Slides it along for Barco. Wants to take Granados on 1v1, now thinks better of it. Nagbe one touch for Piatti Martinez, who's trying to curl it in for Martinez. It'll get there anyway. Barco, was he taken down? O'Shea Nation says no, play on. And a good step from Parkhurst. As Ofefa clipping it towards the corner. It's not a bad ball. Fuller could be in here. Keisher Fuller. Watch closely. And the pass way too far behind Jimmy Marine. And it could open up a counterattack on the other end for Atlanta. Piatti, inch-perfect ball for Barco. Brings it down beautifully. Barco went for the chip. It would have been too good to be true. Cambronero handles it cleanly. Miles Robinson. Big switch over for Breck Shea. Piatti. Well, he was sick of sort of just lingering around the penalty area. Wanted somebody to take a shot, elects to do it himself. And able to get a corner out of it. Didn't really have much room to operate with, but sometimes that's all you need to try to win a corner, win a set piece. And just continue to put pressure and ask questions of this Herediano back line, which has obviously not had all the answers in the opening 27 minutes or so. Didn't have the answers in the first 50 seconds as Joseph Martinez continues to battle with Keisher Fuller. Going toe-to-toe, chest-to-chest. Piatti. Cambronero caught in no man's land. And thanking Keener Brown that he was stationed where he was at the moment. Atlanta in the driver's seat, in no rush. Patience is very much a virtue when you have the ball at home in this type of situation. As that is whipped across, Breck Shea, wrong side of the post. The buildup was mesmerizing, and Breck Shea was that close to finishing off what would have been a stupendous move. How about that ball from Gressel? Cambronero. They call it the corridor of uncertainty for a reason. Ambiguous play from the keeper, and it almost led to an emphatic finish. Robinson able to get it away. Remedy on the turn. It gets dropped by Jimmy Marine. And he stays prone. And Jimmy Marine might receive disciplinary action. Although it looks like O'Shea Nation is going to keep the cards in the pocket for the moment. But Remedy did take a shot there. Watch the elbow of Jimmy Marine. Well, not nearly as bad as we thought. Barco drops deep to receive it. Remedy. Gonzalez Perez trying to pick out Breck Shea. Seconds will fall for Barco, looking to use his pace. Now taking the scenic route. Lion's share of the possession for Atlanta. We'll have halftime stats and highlights at the conclusion of the first 45 minutes. Breck Shea able to knot it in. Joseph Martinez is trying to chest it right back for the winger. And Keisher Fuller taking route one, but the only one chasing it down is Jose Ortiz. Michael Parsons' clearance is only as far as Jimmy Marine. And the sliding challenge from Remedy called a foul, and he's claiming that he got the ball first. And O'Shea Nation not liking the dissent he's receiving from the Argentinian after the fact. And all that Remedy can do is just sort of shrug it off. Did look pretty clean. 9 minutes remaining in the first half. Joseph Martinez and Julian Gressel right now leveling things on the aggregate. Atlanta threw on away goals thanks to Julian Gressel's deflected goal right before halftime in the first leg back in Heredia last week. And that is a very late challenge from Piatti. Jimmy Marine in the face of the designated player for Atlanta. And it is going to be yellow for Piatti Martinez. So now Gonzalez Perez and Gonzalo Martinez on caution for Atlanta. And that is the right call. It's very late from Atlanta's new signing. It was that left leg that was dragging that caught Jimmy Marine. It was a very physical battle last week in Costa Rica. And with the quick offensive start at Atlanta, we didn't really get to see that come to the surface up until the last 5 to 10 minutes or so. And a negative chant directed at O'Shea Nation now. As Ofefa, beautiful ball in. Heredia wanted a handball, and Joseph Martinez able to clear it. Jimmy Marine. Sarabia almost got there. It's Julian Gressel releasing. Here comes Barco the other way. Can he beat Keisher Fuller? Ripped down from behind. And no call from the referee. And here comes Heredia on the other end. Joseph Martinez tried to foul. And the attack comes to nothing. Gressel thought about the first time hit. Remedy directing traffic. Parkhurst did really well to get it over for Piatti. Barco making a run on the left-hand side, and he's offside. Overzealous trying to get forward. If he held his run just a hair, it would have been another golden opportunity for Atlanta to get a third, as we'll have just 60 seconds added on at the minimum here. to win it. Maybe one last counterattack in store. Piatti. Remedy. Nipped out from behind. Ortiz got a foot in there. Here goes Keisher Fuller again. He's got plenty of pace. Gonzalez Perez, though, a runaway freight train, and could not be stopped as he runs through the back of Keisher Fuller. And Gonzalez Perez is being told by the head referee, you're already on a card. Next one, and you're going to hit the showers a little bit early. And it's tough to argue because he comes through not only with an elbow, but just in a full sprint. Piatti is making a claim that it was his shoulder. Has to be the last kick of the first half. As Ofefa on top of it. Capable of delicious delivery. We saw it in the first leg. This one no different. And Ariano couldn't quite get there, and that'll bring the first half to a close. And what a first half it was for Atlanta United. And who thought after 2 goals in the first 10 minutes, and right now going through the quarterfinals, that there would be boos raining down in Kennesaw. But nevertheless, Joseph Martinez got us started in the first minute. A poacher's goal for the reigning MLS MVP. Julian Gressel got his second goal of the tournament and second goal of this tie in the 9th minute. Breck Shea had a great chance to make it a third. And Herediano did have one terrific chance with Jose Ortiz, but he was not able to finish like he did in the first leg. As the conversations of O'Shea Nation continue, particularly from Brad Guzan and Gonzalez Perez. But that'll bring the first half to a close. First half highlights and stats coming your way in just a few moments. Right now it's 2-0 in the second leg, 3-3 on aggregate. Atlanta United, as it stands, will take on Monterrey in the quarterfinals. Don't go anywhere, we'll be back in a few moments.
Jorge Burgos fought his way up from keg washer to master brewer. Now he fights to make sure every drop has a crisp taste.
Welcome back to Fifth Third Bank Stadium. Hope you're enjoying a snack or a beverage in halftime. Tyler Terran's on hand. And if you're just tuning in, we'll give you a little help and fill you in on what happened in the first, well, let's call this one the first about 50 seconds or so, as Atlanta United came out firing and throwing haymakers in the opening moments, and Joseph Martinez landed a massive right hook in the first 50 seconds of this one. It's a poor mistake from Omar Ariano. There's no getting around that, but Martinez, who missed a sitter in the first leg, was never in his life going to miss that. And that got things started here at Kennesaw in a hurry. 8 minutes later, Julian Gressel had the away goal for Atlanta in the first leg, gets a home goal here, and this is just great interplay with Barco, and the finish is just scrumptious. Curls it into the bottom left-hand corner with the outside of the foot, and you can see what it means to Atlanta United to level on the aggregate, and as it stands, go through to take on Monterrey in the quarterfinals. But Herediano are more than capable of countering, and Gonzalez Perez, boy, he needs to be careful in the second half because he ends up getting a card here for this play, and he commits 2 more fouls later in the game that easily could have been given as a second yellow card, which would put Atlanta in a world of hurt heading towards the home stretch of this one. And Atlanta United would continue to just put all sorts of pressure on Herediano. The Costa Rican club did not look themselves for the entirety of the first 45 minutes. There were little pockets where you thought that they might be able to get one. There was one chance in particular from Jose Ortiz over the top that Brad Guzan and company were able to deal with in the end, as Jimmy Marin would be taken out here by Piatti Martinez, and tempers would flare as Jimmy Marin, 21 years of age, going toe-to-toe with Piatti Martinez, who would end up receiving a yellow card as well. Martinez and Gonzalez Perez on caution for Atlanta after the first 45 minutes, as Joseph Martinez would go back for defensive responsibilities a number of times throughout the first half as Atlanta continued to protect this 2-0 lead. in the second leg, which right now has them 3-3 on aggregate. A look at the numbers from the first 45 minutes, a walloping 66% of possession for Frank de Boer's side. A far cry from what we saw in the first leg, as Herediano really had a stranglehold back in Costa Rica, and that's what you expect with the home team. But Atlanta United doing an excellent job. We'll step aside when we come back. Second half action. Do not go anywhere. Almost set for the second half here at Fifth Third Bank Stadium in Kennesaw, Georgia. Tyler Terrence on hand. Thank you so much for joining us as Atlanta United, as it stands, going on to the quarterfinals to take on Monterrey, who got by on the slimmest of margins against Alianza last night. And what a matchup that would be. You would expect, especially since Atlanta would be heading back to Mercedes, to have six-figure attendance between the two legs in Monterrey and Atlanta. But a long way to go, 45 minutes to be exact, and potentially penalties before we can start talking about the quarterfinals as Atlanta come back out onto the field. Julian Gressel, Joseph Martinez, the goal scorers for the Major League Soccer outfit. Meanwhile, Herediano with a more than disappointing first half. However, they were able to stop the bleeding momentarily towards the end of the first half. They turned it into a dogfight, a street fight, if you will, as there was plenty of physicality, plenty of cards flying around. And to be fair, O'Shea Nation has done a good job, our head referee, of trying to restore order, but there's so much at stake. Both of these teams trying to move on to the quarterfinals. Atlanta would be their first. Herediano trying to get back to those days where they would run deep into this tournament. It has not been the case as of late. And of course, with the new rule in place next year, Central American teams winning their league is not going to do it. They're going to have to battle through CONCACAF League, which Herediano did win this year, or last year, excuse me, in order to get into this year's CONCACAF Champions League, as we are going to have one substitution for Hernan Medford, as Minor Esco is going to come on and replace Omar Arellano. And to be completely honest, that is not a surprise, as the 31-year-old from Guadalajara had an absolute nightmare in the first half, responsible, you could say, more or less, for the Joseph Martinez goal in the first 50 seconds. And on comes Minor Esco, who was the first substitute off the bench for Hernan Medford in the first half. One of the 6 signings that Herediano brought in during the winter transfer window to prepare for this tournament. 27-year-old from San Jose, Costa Rica, as we're officially underway in the second half. 45 minutes to play. If we have an Atlanta goal and an Herediano goal and a 3-1 finish in this second leg, we go straight to penalties at the moment. As we'll continue to mention, it's Atlanta United moving on to the quarterfinals on away goals, thanks to Julian Gressel's away goal in the first leg in Heredia. Darlington Nagby, who proves to be a revelation from first to second leg, as Breck Shea's delivery blocked. It stays on the left side of the corner flag and will be a deep throw-in for ATL. Remedy finding the space. It's with Breck Shea. Another terrific delivery, but a bit too close to Cambronero. And you can see Martinez with that hand motion saying needs to be a little bit more whip on it. Breck Shea missing a opportunity that could have put Atlanta United up 3-0. Parkhurst a little bit overzealous trying to win that one. 5 minutes gone in the second half. Herediano would have been better off just letting that run out of play. Martinez leaves it off for Nagby. Put too much on it for Barco. And it'll run out of play. But the thoughts, the ideas are there. The wheels are spinning for Frank de Boer's side. Only been together for about 140 minutes so far this season. Nagby. Barco in for Gressel. Fisher Fuller stationed appropriately. Great first touch out of pressure from Miles Robinson to find Gonzalez Perez, who is on caution, as is Piatti for Atlanta United. Barco finding a nice little pocket of space in between the defense and midfield. Gressel lost it towards the back post. Piatti Martinez on the first time, and Martinez with a reactive attempt on goal. It was a long shot, but those usually pay out the biggest. Watch the Venezuelan just stick his foot out, and he is whiskers away from converting on that. And all he can do is smile at the attempt because he knows it shouldn't have even been that close. And Piatti, I'm sure, would have rather. Atlanta United win it back. Here's Barco sliding it through. Gressel could be in here. Gressel takes it himself, and Cabranero got a fingertip to it. Well, that seemed pretty blatantly obvious, but they're going to award Heredia with a goal kick. We'll let you be the judge at home. And again, something that this new formation and system for Frank de Boer, not that the wingbacks weren't important in Tata Martino's system, who now, of course, is the coach of the Mexican national team, but opens up a ton of space. Speaking of space, Joseph Martinez is away here. Tries to slide it across. Piatti goes to the ground. He's already out of yellow. We'll continue to play on. Ball from Barco actually took a deflection off of Azofeifa, and Joseph Martinez saw his comrade standing on the back post, but didn't put enough on it. Cushioned down by Brown. Remedy coming through, putting in a good challenge. Piatti Martinez trying to get away from Granados. Look at the speed from the Argentinian. Piatti Martinez rolled it wide. And while it is encouraging from Atlanta United, how many of these opportunities are going to go by the wayside before they start to rue them and perhaps open the door for Heredia to get that vital away goal that would send the Costa Rican club Azofeifa couldn't quite get it over Miles Robinson. He's played a really solid game, the 21-year-old. Barco and Gressel linking up, proving to be a formidable pair. Good ball through, Brechet for Martinez, 3 for Atlanta. They lead 4-3 on aggregate. And it's Joseph Martinez again. Well, they were just waiting for that big ball to unlock this Herediano defense, and Brekshea makes a terrific run. Running Esco right on the inside of it to the very last moment. And then Joseph Martinez, he's not going to see much easier than that. After missing a sitter in the first leg and really being non-existent, he has come to play. And did you expect anything else from the lethal Venezuelan? And Frank de Boer knows how big that goal is. And that goal means that if Herediano were to get one, it would go straight to pens. Atlanta now lead outright on the aggregate. And you lose the ball in not so advantageous position. It can lead to acres of space the other way for the opposition on the counter. And especially with the lead that they have, you might not see it as often from Atlanta in the remaining 22 minutes or so. And that substitution will now take place as Piatti Martinez is going to come off for the first time here in the state of Georgia to a warm round of applause. Villalba onto the scene in the 70th. Outstanding atmosphere here at Fifth Third. Ball from Azofeifa, cut out by Brekshea. Barco. Oh, it almost got through. Joseph Martinez trying to clean up seconds. Villalba! Crowd wants a foul on the high foot. And a dangerous play. O'Shea Nation waving on medical attention for Joseph Martinez. Keisher Fuller had his foot up, level with Joseph Martinez's head. And the referee let it go on and played advantage if he was going to make a call at all. As Fuller did get a piece of the ball, but nevertheless, it was still a high foot and a very dangerous play. It's just the ball that caught Joseph Martinez. Now it's Gressel. Victor Villalba somehow came away with it, now finding Joseph Martinez. Barco on the left-hand side, sprayed over for him. Ezequiel Barco carried away. Gressel on the follow-up. Still encouraging signs from the home side, even though they're up 4-3 on aggregate and 3-0 in this second leg. Ezequiel Barco was really looking to seal the deal, and Gressel never quite got over it. Which will be a juicy two-legged affair. Villalba, clever for Gressel. Early delivery, too close to Camarnaro again. looks like Romario Williams is going to make a late appearance here in Kennesaw. And he's going to replace Joseph Martinez up top, who is going to get a round of applause of his own to be reckoned with. And this is what Joseph Martinez has put in tonight, making the most of an Omar Arellano mistake in the first minute of play. 50 seconds hadn't gone by. And of course, the celebration without his buddy Miggy. A bittersweet moment for Joseph as he gets his first and second of 2019. Romario Williams coming onto the scene here for the last 10 minutes or so. Which will be a juicy two-legged affair. Villalba, clever for Gressel. Early delivery, too close to Camarnaro again. And it looks like Romario Williams is going to make a late appearance here in Kennesaw. He's going to replace Joseph Martinez up top, who is going to get a round of applause of his own to be reckoned with. And this is what Joseph Martinez has put in tonight, making the most of an Omar Arellano mistake in the first minute of play. 50 seconds hadn't gone by. And of course, the celebration without his buddy Miggy. A bittersweet moment for Joseph as he gets his first and second of 2019. Romario Williams coming onto the scene here for the last 10 minutes or so. Romario, 24 years of age, from Portmore, Jamaica. It's a couple of years with the Charleston Battery in the USL, now known as the USL Championship, second division in the United States. Scored bags of goals for Mike Anhauser's club for a couple of years. It's actually named after the Brazilian Romario, World Cup winner in 1994. Ezequiel Barco running with Breck Shea. Shea back in. And good play from Saravia. And Atlanta win a corner, and precious seconds continue to knock off the clock. And Heredia starting to become more in tune as to what Breck Shea and Julian Gressel are all about. Obviously versatile players in their own right, but love to go for that early delivery and bend it in behind the defense. Barco on the corner now, it'll be an in-swinger. Camarnaro off of his line, punches it away. And Nagaby will go back from where it came. Barco again, good ball in, knotted header! Gonzalez Perez, after his mistake in the first leg, makes no mistake about this one. And surely sends Atlanta United through to the quarterfinals now. They lead 5-3 on aggregate. Well, the initial corner was dealt with appropriately by the keeper, and look at that header from Gonzalez Perez. The ball in from Barco is terrific, but it needed something special from that distance. Sean Davis scored a header from about 13 yards out last night for New York Red Bulls, but he was stepping through. Gonzalez Perez sort of had to turn and torque his body and flick that on. Nothing Camarnaro can do about it. And how's that for human resiliency? Gonzalez Perez, who I'm sure was not in great favor with Atlanta United fans after his woeful mistake in the first leg, booking their ticket quite literally to the quarterfinals against Monterrey next week. And they can start to smell victory here in Kennesaw. And they'll rejoice knowing that there will be international football at Mercedes-Benz. Look at the effort and the engine from Barco even in the 86th minute. Ball whipped in, asking questions of Atlanta. Torres back in. As Ofefa on the first time. Quite hit it right. And now here's Villalba. Atlanta want more. Is there a fifth in store? 3-on-2 if they hurry. Barco. Ezequiel Barco. Too much on it. He walks one in the worst way. It's another gut-busting run. No magic in the attacking third, a far cry from what we saw a week ago in Costa Rica. Here was the effort from Villalba as Heredia were playing a line right around midfield, as we are going to have 3 minutes of stoppage time. You think about all the criticism that Atlanta received in the days leading up to this game after their poor performance in Heredia, and their first game under a new manager with new players, life after Miguel Almiron, life after Tata Martino. There seemed to be no faith in a side that looked like a juggernaut for most of the 2018 season. 2 points off of New York Red Bulls from claiming the Shield and the MLS Cup. They actually tied Toronto FC, who set the previous record for points in a season with 69 in 2017. Red Bulls, of course, finished with 71. Red Bulls moving on to the quarterfinals of this competition as well. But particularly in these two-legged affairs, you never can write off any team for that matter, particularly a team that came in as a favorite against Herediano. And all they needed was a 2-0 win in order to go through, and they obviously exceeded all expectations coming into tonight, as Jerson Torres is met by another stout challenge from Julian Gressel. This is the exact performance you expected from the reigning MLS Cup champions. Fuller gets the cross away, but couldn't quite get it past Parkhurst. Villalba. Barco still has that speed in the 92nd minute. Barco. O'Shea Nation not having any of it. Jimmy Marine, 1v1 with Breck Shea. In front, Lugo, what a save from Guzan. He was always going to need one big save, or at least one, to keep the clean sheet. And here it is. And denying a perennial goal scorer, especially back in his heyday, Edgar Lugo. And watch this outstretched paw from the Illinois native. Whipped back in, not gonna matter, full time. Excuse me, full time. Pardon me. It was an emphatic offside whistle from O'Shea Nation, to be completely fair. Even my producer, Abe Aponte, was ready to start rolling out the postgame. But surely this will be the last one for Brad Guzan now. Now it's full time. Atlanta United answer the bell and answer their critics after a 3-1 loss in Costa Rica. Put on a 4-0 performance here in the second leg at Fifth Third Bank Stadium. Joseph Martinez with a brace, Julian Gressel, and how about Gonzalez Perez to cap it all off in the 83rd minute. It was never a doubt from the opening minute that Atlanta United had a firm hold on this game. And they move on to the quarterfinals to take on Monterrey. And we'll take a look at what the updated bracket is going to look like with just one more round of 16 match remaining. And it's the second leg between Sporting and Toluca. Atlanta United, their first ever Champions League tie win. Frank de Boer gets his first win as manager of Atlanta United. Unbelievable performance. Herediano out here in the 2019 competition. For our entire crew at CONCACAF, Tyler Terran signing off. Thank you so much for tuning in. Atlanta United off to the quarters.